Recording. Nicole, on to you. You're on mute, so.
Great. Thank you, everyone, and welcome to our first outreach webinar. The hope from today's webinar is to really give you an idea of why we're organizing this challenge, who we are, and how this ties into a lot of the work that we already do in India, as well as give you an overview of what the challenge was like last year, and also give you an understanding of what your journey during the 5-month challenge will be like this year. So for anyone who's not yet familiar with our organization, the Good Food Institute India is part of a network of nonprofit organizations across the world with offices in the United States, in Brazil, in Europe, Asia Pacific, Israel, and of course, India. Put simply, as an organization, we work with scientists, with entrepreneurs, with investors, and other stakeholders that are looking to diversify protein sources for a healthy, sustainable, and just food system. Broadly, we work across 3 pillars. The first being science and technology. Our PhD team of our team of PhD scientists works to advance the open source foundational science behind alternative protein. Our corporate engagement team builds relationships with some of the world's largest food manufacturers, retailers, meat manufacturers, and it really helps them see the opportunity that the alternative protein sector provides them. And finally, our policy team works with regulators for free and fair regulation for some of these products that eventually come to market, as well as work with government agencies to increase investments in sustainable protein R&D. The key question that drives all our work at GFI India is how we can feed 10 billion people by 2050 through systems that do not negatively impact the climate, biodiversity, and scarce natural resources. As global populations increase, we're going to need food systems that will address demand at scale. And this increase in demand, especially for protein, we're likely to see models of industrialized animal agriculture that are optimized for cost and production efficiency. But this in itself is a whole host of, there's a whole host of issues attached to these problems itself. So for example, animal agriculture already contributes more to climate change than all of the emissions from all the planes, trains, automobiles, and the entire transportation sector combined. Beyond this system of animal agriculture is not efficient. So for example, if we take the chicken, it takes about 9 calories in the form of feed to get back 1 calorie in the form of meat. And apart from that, over about half of the Earth's habitable land is already devoted to agriculture, and a vast majority of that is used for raising livestock. Animal protein production also contributes significantly to food insecurity by competing for land as well as agricultural inputs that eventually go to the animal, which can rather feed populations en masse. And finally, there are a whole host of public health threats emerging from animal agriculture, which come at huge costs. So for example, contamination in food products can result in foodborne illnesses that come at the cost of individual well-being, as well as the overuse of antibiotics as veterinary medicine, but also as growth promoters, threatens our own ability to treat infectious as well as non-infectious diseases as levels of antimicrobial resistance rises. So at GFI India, a core theory of our change is to make something people want. We think a major aspect of this solution to this problem of feeding 10 billion people by 2050 is through the use of alternative proteins, and in particular, plant-based, fermentation-derived, and cultivated proteins. We're not trying to get people to stop eating what they want to eat, but rather we're looking to work with the consumer to shift the way these products are produced in a way that's better both for the world as well as better for business. How we define smart protein at GFI India is essentially products that can reliably and predictably substitute animal-derived meat, eggs, and dairy. So what this means is that we're looking to create products that mimic both the taste as well as the sensory and cultural experience for consumers that are looking to consume some of these products. And essentially, when we're talking about smart proteins, we're talking about 3 different production modalities. One being plant-based proteins, like I mentioned, the second fermentation-derived proteins using fermentation technology, and finally cultivated meat that is produced using animal cell culture. This is just to give you an overview of what the global landscape for alternative protein currently looks like. So in 2020 alone, we saw $3.1 billion invested into alternative protein globally. And this was spread across all 3 of these production modalities. But a lot more needs to be done to stimulate this ecosystem, both in terms of investment from the public as well as the private sector, as well as a lot of work needs to be done on creating enabling infrastructure for these products to be manufactured as well as distributed across the country as well as globally. And finally, a lot needs to be done to stimulate talent in this sector as well, because it's talent that's really going to promote the growth of this sector. Plant-based foods specifically have been on the rise in Asia Pacific. So for example, Asia Pacific is currently the largest market for plant-based milk. Why this is interesting is that globally, the trend that we found is that plant-based milk tends to be a gateway to other plant-based products as well as interest in other alternative protein products. So for us, we feel now is the time to really invest our resources in growing the ecosystem for smart proteins, not just in Asia Pacific, but specifically in India as well. In saying that, the Indian smart protein sector is still in its very nascent stages. Here's an overview of some of the plant-based meat, eggs, and dairy startups that are currently operating in the industry. This is not an exhaustive list of startups. This is just to give you an idea of what the landscape currently looks like across meat, milk, eggs, dairy products like cheese, yogurt, and other beverages, as well as ingredients providers that are producing some of the raw materials that go into these products across these product category ranges. We're hoping that through some of GFI India's flagship initiatives, like the India Smart Protein Innovation Challenge, of course, we're hoping to really stimulate talent that can feed into this sector, as well as stimulate entrepreneurship and startups that can diversify some of these product offerings, not just in the plant-based category, but across the fermentation and cultivated category as well, that can feed demand not just in India, but globally. I'll just hand over to Shardul now to speak a bit more about GFI India's initiatives to build out that early stage innovation ecosystem.
Thank you, Nicole. And if you can, please keep sharing, that would be helpful. We can go to the next slide. So a very warm welcome everybody who's joined in. And the first leg was just to give you an understanding of what GFI India does as a nonprofit with our ecosystem of partners and all the members that are contributing towards this building of the smart protein sector. And now we want to kind of talk a little bit about what the challenge was last year, right? Before we get on to what the India Smart Protein Challenge 2021 is all about. So we basically want to make Atmanirbhar Bharat in smart protein, right? We see huge opportunities across, whether it's the indigenous crops that we have, pulses, millets, lucrative sustainable value addition to farmers' incomes. At the same time, these are local hardy crops, great for land use, water use, and they can all be used in the smart protein sector, just like hundreds and thousands of companies globally now are doing. Right. So large crop biodiversity in India, we have a huge globally competitive talent pool, right? A lot of our attendees today, you might be a food scientist, biotechnologist, somebody with applied sciences background, chemical engineer, materials engineer, mechanical engineer. We have participants last year who were chartered accountants, lawyers, marketing experts, distribution experts, anybody, right? In fact, if it does not matter if you're a corporate professional, if you're a student, you're a researcher, we have a very strong talent pool. Specifically to the smart protein sector, we have a lot of food technologists, biotechnologists, people from chemical background and allied areas of agriculture research, etc. in our country. And we have a lot of colleges catering to that. And India Smart Protein Challenge really fits in well on building this globally competitive talent pool, which is one of the most important things that we can do to build this sector sustainably in India. Because over the past 3.5, 4 years that GF India has been building this sector from the grounds up in India, and having consulted hundreds of entrepreneurs, corporate professionals, there's lack of talent pool, right? Specifically non-sci-tech talent pool. But obviously we are building a sector here, so the need for non-sci-tech talent pool is also quite wide. And at the same time, this is a huge industrial opportunity for India. We can, leapfrog the ecosystem which we are currently laying in place, which is inefficient for all the reasons we saw, and move to a much sustainable, efficient, and healthier and safer ecosystem to feed 10 billion people by 2050, which is our ultimate goal. We can go to the next one. So, we have few key initiatives to build this ecosystem in India. The first key one is our community, the GF Ideas India community. So GF Ideas is good food ideas, and we have an entire ecosystem toolkit around it. We have our flagship, events that we do every year, which is the Smart Protein Summit and the Future of Protein Summit. And we'll see each of these one by one. So in the community, we have hundreds of entrepreneurs, corporate professionals, people from the entire value chain, because we're building an entire sector, right? And we saw a lot of companies already being active on the plant-based meat, eggs, and dairy and seafood and plant-based ingredient side. But we are not really basically having a lot of companies established and on the fermentation and cultivated side, which is what this challenge would also look at doing this year. But we have all of this community of professionals, all the entrepreneurs who are currently working in our country on creating companies, investors, corporate professionals, scientists, academicians, students, people from last year's challenge who were in the phase 3, phase 4, all of them are part of our community. So quite exciting platform where everybody can, next slide, where everybody can find something relevant for them to actually build a smart protein startup or research in the smart protein domain. Next. So, our GFI India Smart Protein Summit is our flagship event. We do this every year. Our latest one is going to come towards the end of November. And, last year we had Indra Nui, the ex-CEO of PepsiCo, as one of our keynote speakers, Josh Chetrick from Eat Just, multiple other, people from different government bodies, regulatory agencies like FSSAI. The CEO of FSSAI was one of the speakers last year. Mr. Amitabh Kant was one of the speakers, and multiple other scientists, experts, entrepreneurs. In fact, we do one session for the India Smart Protein Innovation Challenge every year as well. And last year, we were able to showcase a lot of talent coming from the challenge onto this summit platform as well. Next. So coming to the mission for smart protein, now we saw why there is a need to build this sector. We saw why the challenge fits well into building this sector across our ecosystem of platforms and tools that we provide in building this sector to all the members of our community, and also other people associated with this sector in India. We have a mission for smart protein for the next 10 years because it's going to be a long journey. And to build it sustainably, we need the right talent doing the right things. So, like I said, indigenous crops is a big thing as part of our smart protein mission for smart protein. We have protein innovation hubs for the global south, excellence centers, whether it's at ICT. I think it changed format for this slide. That's okay. We can just get it back to the original size if we can, but I'll continue. There's smart seafood without sacrifice. India has a huge coastline, right? So basically there's a lot of scope for plant-based seafood innovation as well. Relatively plant-based dairy sees a lot more innovation compared to plant-based meat and plant-based seafood. But I think those two areas are big white space opportunity areas as well, including a lot of plant-based ingredients. And on fermentation and cultivated side, there's a lot of capacity in our country because we are leaders in, for example, vaccine manufacturing and biotech industries and pharma industries. So there's so much to be done, including a lot of mega food parks being set up across the country. So, extruders for manufacturing of high moisture extrudeds, which are essential for making plant-based meats, machinery needed for making plant-based dairy. That's all part of our Manufacturing Futures initiative. And then we understand that India processes only 5% of its fresh produce, right? So the food processing sector, and this everything we are talking about smart protein, it's a food manufacturing business ultimately, or a research problem you're solving in food processing, right? So you ultimately need to think about knowledge transfer from countries that have already developed quite a lot, whether it's Israel, Singapore, US, Japan, Canada, Australia. Singapore in 2020 December became the first country to allow the sale of cultivated meat, which is quite fascinating, and many other countries are going to follow suit. So, deepening and leveraging such bilateral relationships is also a key part of our overall mission for smart protein. And the ISPIC challenge fits very well into all of these initiatives. Next. So let's look at why we came up with this initiative, why this is one of its only kind anywhere in the world. You won't find any other such journey structured by experts, across our team of GFI India. For example, all our partners, including our organizing partner, CIECO, all our other partners that you might have seen on our website or on posters, everybody is kind of helping contribute to building this challenge this year. And it's quite exciting because last year it was a huge success story. We were able to, influence and start many such similar challenges through our global network in different countries, including Ivy universities in the US. And then the end goal is kind of a triple goal, right? Educate, inspire, and engage. We want to educate people because this is a tech forward area. So having the crucial fundamental knowledge is very, very important about the science, technology, innovation, policy, business, entrepreneurship specific to this sector. We want to inspire talent, right? I'm a food scientist. I'm a food technology student. I had not heard of the alternative protein sector until I graduated in 2016-17, as late as that, right? And many students, researchers, academicians, entrepreneurs still don't understand this opportunity fully, as globally the landscape is evolving. We want to inspire talent and entrepreneurs to do the same in India. And we want to engage you because, all of these resources are available anyways on our website. We are a non-profit. We do everything open access, but a structured path to consuming them, getting evaluated, get it certified, having prizes and rewards at every stage, having individual mentorship, all of that is quite key, which is why we've built this India Smart Protein Innovation Challenge after, accounting for the needs of hundreds and hundreds of students. In fact, more than 1,000 people participated last year. So quite exciting. Let me tell you a little bit more about this. So we can go to the next one. So this is what the challenge looked like last year. Some of you might have heard of some of these startups which came out of the demo day. So, last year it was the first time we were doing it. So we were not entirely sure how many startups we can expect out of it. So that was not the intention. But we were very surprised and delighted by the fact that we were able to reach out to more than 1,000 universities, institutes. We hired 30 campus ambassadors. And in phase one, top universities across India, top incubators, institutions, IIMs, IITs, NITs, NIFTM, ICT, NDRI. Think about all the colleges that are excelling on these fronts and allied areas, agriculture, etc. A lot of participants, in fact, 1,084 participants started their journey, right? And they got certified in the world's first smart protein digital lab in phase one. They got their fundamental knowledge, consuming 40 hours worth of content. And there was a 70% completion rate. So almost 650, 700 people got to phase two. They went into a matchmaking week. They formed teams from the people who were selected from phase one. That's quite important. Everybody who wants to form a team needs to go through phase one. And then they worked on innovative proposals in 5 categories of plant-based meat, eggs and dairy, and plant-based seafood, and plant-based ingredients, right? So 5 categories only. We did not have fermentation and cultivated last time, and there were no different tracks, but we had a lot of excellent partners, including CIECO for acceleration, incubation, post-challenge, supporting these entrepreneurs, supporting these researchers. And we were quite excited to see the impact that was from the demo day, which I'd like to tell you in the next slide. We can change the slide to the next one. So you're seeing some startups here, and the impact was quite wide, right? We can go to the previous one. Yeah, thank you. So for this, basically, what we're looking at is 1,085 participants, like I said, a huge completion rate, and 80 people have found gainful employment. They're pursuing their masters, they've started their companies, and we were able to put all of these exciting solutions in external facing format on our Smart Protein Solutions wall, which we'll see later on. But basically, this is to connect people with industry, entrepreneurs seeking talent, corporates looking at finding interns, startup founders looking at finding core team members, entrepreneurs wanting to get connected with investors through our community and our platform and our events, right? So this wall serves kind of like that, and a lot of other initiatives throughout the challenge as well. Gastrotope and Mistletoe were our sponsors and partners last time for the challenge, main ones who made it happen. So we do a lot of inspiration webinars, mentoring, right? And we have a lot of exciting experts speaking from, different backgrounds and different areas and contributing to mentorship during the challenge. Last time we had more than 30 business and scientific sessions. You can click on, we'll make this link available to you. You can go to our YouTube, check some of these sessions out as well. Entrepreneurs speaking about their smart protein journeys, investors talking about what's necessary to raise money in this area, scientists talking about how to develop products and scale your recipes, sharing real world experiences about, for example, excellent sessions from our partners. I can tell you one from CIECO. Sushmita did an excellent session on building decks for the sector. So, basic things like that, all the way to really talking about the complexities of scale-up challenges, new product development, ingredients. So we had a varied set of speakers last time, and we look to retain a lot of these mentors and add a lot more mentors specific to the technology areas, which is plant-based, fermentation, and cultivated this year as well. Next. So this is just something to show you about some of the webinars that we do as part of the mentoring series. Last time we did not have a lot of individual mentoring, right? In phase 3 and phase 4, only GFI India team of experts was able to one-on-one mentor. This time for top teams who qualify phase 3, we'll basically have individual mentorship for them as well. Next. This is some coverage, your story, Green Queen Media, multiple other outlets. Picking this up, you'll probably start seeing a lot of this on different platforms as well, as you kind of start looking more. If you just Google India Smart Protein Innovation Challenge, a bunch of stuff will come up. So that's about coverage. We can go to the next slide. And then basically, we were able to reach 25,000 individuals in our outreach campaign, right? Our website saw a lot of users dropping in, 34K people. So we are trying to make impact by helping people discover this opportunity and at the same time connecting the right talents with the right set of complementary talents that they would need and the right set of structure, programming, mentoring that is needed to succeed in this sector. And, word of mouth is really our go-to thing when it comes to outreach. So, for example, all the hundreds of attendees today, if you go out and share this opportunity within your colleges, within your institutions, within your colleagues and your professionals and informal networks, I'm sure many more relevant people will find this opportunity quite helpful. Next. So this is the solutions wall that I was telling you about, the 5 categories people, basically innovated in. You can go to our website, Smart Protein Challenge, and see this from last year. There are a bunch of solutions there from last year's teams, quite exciting. Indigenous crops were being used, fascinating proposals across these 5 categories. And we look to replicate the same across plant-based this time, but also have innovative new ideas in fermentation cultivated through participants this year. And we have our GFI India talent database for which you can sign up post-challenge so that you have some credibility and certifications. We share it with dozens of employers and startups and corporates who are looking to hire from the sector in India. So that's also quite exciting. If you're sourcing talent, do get in touch with the form that is given on the website. Next. So this is some success of the demo day teams, plant-based seafood, plant-based meat, plant-based seafood, plant-based egg, plant-based dairy. They've been incubated in multiple programs. They've been finding opportunities to apply to, international acceleration cohorts. A lot of these excellent incubation, acceleration, venture capital funds are partners on the challenge, if you might have seen. So, it's an opportunity which is usually not available for the sector anywhere else if you try, but the challenge and going through this journey offers you the credibility to apply to a lot of these grants and such programs, which is quite helpful to kickstart your entrepreneurship journey or your research journey in many ways. Next. Yeah, this is just something, whether you're from DU, whether you're from an IIT, it does not matter what your background is, right? Like a great example of this is Devika, who's on our panel today. She's a innovation associate at JFI India, and she was one of the participants with no background at all in food, chemical, any of that, right? But she was able to find this journey quite exciting as well. And you can find her journey and her experiences on our YouTube handle in the session we did for the Smart Protein Summit, along with many other participants from last year as well. But basically, everybody found core team members, found mentorship, found the right set of tools to basically build on their ideas, which is something we were set out to do in the first place. So we were quite excited to see that. Next. So this is just some of our partners from last year who were quite happy to collaborate and understand the Indian ecosystem, find entrepreneurs who can be potentially invested in, find a right set of talent, more importantly, who can be employees, who can be core team members, who can be researchers in this field going forward. Because this is a technology-led area, science and technology is a core component of this. Without understanding that, it's really difficult to start a business. So we were very happy to have a diverse set of partners last year who were quite happy with the challenge, and we are quite excited to quadruple the number of partners we have this year, as you can see on our website, and we'll cover soon that as well. Next. So that was basically the challenge last year. And then to quickly tell you a little bit about the challenge this year, I'll invite Nicole on. You're on mute, Nicole.
Sorry. For the next 10 minutes, we really just want to talk to you about what you can expect as a participant for the challenge in 2021. So like Shardul mentioned, first of all, you'll find that we've expanded our scope to not just include plant-based, but also include opportunities for fermentation derived as well as cultivated proteins. We're seeing more and more that the Indian ecosystem can really support entrepreneurs as well as talent within these sectors. And so we wanted to expand the scope of the challenge to include technology solutions from these categories as well. And also we've split up the challenge into 2 tracks. The first track being focused entirely on innovation. So this track is suited for students that might still be at university, researchers, postdocs, as well as professionals working within industrial sciences that might be looking to solve some of the most technologically advanced scientific problem statements that present itself within these sectors. The idea over here is really to inspire and engage and educate talent that can feed into the larger smart protein sector. And then finally, we have a second track, which is focused entirely on entrepreneurship. So this track is more focused on incubating as well as accelerating potential and existing startups and entrepreneurs within the smart protein ecosystem right now. Again, over here, the idea is more towards accelerating go-to-market for some of these startups within the sector, as well as support them in a very structured manner in their journey towards starting a company within the sector. Both tracks will follow the same structure. It'll be a 4-phase structure. The first phase is the induction phase, which begins on the 17th of September. Within this phase, we'll have all participants that register for the challenge, whether you're interested in the first track or the second track, or whether you're interested in plant-based or the fermentation and cultivated category. Every single participant registered for the challenge will undergo a mandatory smart protein digital lab. Just like last year, this will feature about 40 hours of content, but this is entirely new content from what we put out in the lab in 2020. So participants that might have participated last year but are still interested to go on this journey with us again this year, the content that we'll be sharing with you will be entirely new. So it'll be engaging for you just as much as the 2020 version was. Finally, once participants have been through the Smart Protein Digital Lab, which will be across 4 weeks, participants that score above 60% or more are then certified from the Smart Protein Digital Lab, and you'll receive a certification for your time and efforts. Following this, you'll be made to form teams to go through phase 2, 3, and 4 of the challenge. It is at this point where you'll have to decide which track you're interested in participating in. So either the innovation track or the entrepreneurship track. And you'll further have to decide what technology area as well you're interested in pursuing through the challenge. But all the participants that qualify from the Smart Protein Digital Lab will be put through a matchmaking week where you can form teams of 3 to 4, 3 if you're in track 1 and 4 if you're in track 2. Track 1, participants will be presented with 15 problem statements across plant-based, cultivated, as well as fermentation-derived proteins. As a team, you'll be asked to take up any one challenge statement and start putting together a proposal for a solution to that one challenge statement. And if you've decided to go into track 2, we'll provide you broad themes across the value chain of plant-based, fermentation-derived, and cultivated proteins. And again, you'll be asked to pick any one value chain area to really come up with a solution as well as a commercial venture idea behind that solution that you'll then pursue for the rest of the challenge. Again, that'll be a 4-week time period, including the matchmaking week. Following that will be your phase 3 week, which is the inspiration for phase 3, which is your inspiration phase. And here we'll be providing you with a bunch of advisory materials, both one-on-one as well as group advisory sessions. We'll be providing you with more extensive materials on the science, technology, and business behind your specific chosen area. And you'll be having mentorship sessions with both GFI's experts as well as industry experts and mentors that we'll be inviting to be part of this challenge. So again, for track 1, which is the innovation track, you'll focus on that one problem statement that you picked in your in the previous phase, and you'll really work on developing your solution further. And in track 2, which is the entrepreneurship track, you'll really work on validating some of the assumptions that you're putting forward, as well as prototyping in this phase. Apart from that, you'll also be asked to develop a business proposal, because at the end of the day, this track is completely focused on commercializing solutions that you're proposing within the challenge. And then finally, you'll be taken to top 10 teams from both all the 3 technology categories across track 1 and track 2 will be taken into phase 4. Your phase 4, you really get to showcase the solution that you're putting forward, whether that's in form of a research idea or whether that's in form of a new venture that you're looking to start. So you'll have the opportunity to present your ideas in the form of a demo day to a panel of industry experts, academic experts, accelerators and incubators, as well as the challenge partners that have come on board. We have a prize pool of up to 20 lakhs. This is an expanded prize pool from last year. And the top 10 teams from track 1, as well as the top 10 teams from track 2, will stand the opportunity to win up to 1 lakh each from this 20 lakh prize pool. So again, this is to give you a broad timeline of what this 5-month journey will really look like for you. Applications close on 14th of September. So we encourage everyone that's interested in the challenge but hasn't registered yet to definitely put in your registration for the challenge as soon as possible. Phase 1 begins on the 17th of September. And finally, this will take you all the way through to the 22nd of February if you make it through the corresponding stages following the phase 1 induction. This is just to give you an idea of where this challenge is hosted. So we're working with Mercer Metal, and we have a specific platform in place where you'll be able to go through all the phases of the challenge. So in phase 1, when you're going through the Smart Protein Digital Lab, this will be hosted entirely on this Mercer Metal platform. You'll also be registering your interest as well as submitting your registration form on the Mercer Metal platform. The link to this platform is on the challenge website. So once you get onto the challenge website and you click on the Apply Now button, it'll redirect you to the Mercer Metal platform where you can submit your registration for the challenge. Your phase 1, which is your Smart Protein Digital Lab, will also be hosted on the challenge, where every week we'll provide you with new resources across all technology categories, covering both business as well as science. And we'll be quizzing you on a weekly basis to test your knowledge of some of the resources that we've shared with you. And we'll have a live leaderboard as well, where you can track how well you're doing with respect to your peers that are also participating in the challenge. Finally, you'll also have the matchmaking following the phase 1 hosted on the platform itself. And we'll also be providing you with resources almost weekly during the phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4 of the challenge. And you'll also get to know about our webinars, both through the challenge platform as well as directly through us mailing you and keeping in touch with you basically throughout the challenge. So you don't have to worry. We'll be hand-holding you throughout the entire 5-month process. We'll be there for any questions that you have. We'll be having regular check-ins with the entire cohort to ensure that we set you up for success, and everything that you require to succeed either on track 1 or track 2, or whether it's across any technology area, whether you're looking for specific advisory, whether you're looking for specific resources, those are the kind of the things that we'd be helping you with throughout this 5-month journey, and really make sure to keep in touch with you at various different checkpoints to ensure that you are getting the most out of this challenge. Finally, the challenge could not have been made possible without the support from our sponsors as well as our partners to the challenge. We have CIIECO today as our key organizing partner for the challenge. They'll be supporting us with a lot of knowledge material that we'll be going through both in phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. And they'll talk a bit more about their experience with the challenge last year, as well as some of the opportunities that they see arising for participants that go through the India Smart Protein Innovation Challenge. Apart from that, we have a number of ecosystem supporting partners as well that make up both VC firms as well as accelerators and incubators, as well as government institutions that are really looking to support talent as well as startups that are coming out of this challenge, and broadly support the growth of this entire ecosystem. And of course, our supporting partners that form bio incubators from some of the top institutions in the country. They will be providing support to challenge participants again throughout the challenge, as well as post-challenge, whether it's in the form of infrastructure support or academic and industry expertise. You will really have hand-holding support both during as well as towards the end of the challenge. So if you are interested in the smart protein sector, both in the form of a career in the sector, or if you're looking to start a company in the sector, there really is no better platform for you to start off than the India Smart Protein Innovation Challenge. With that, I'll stop and I'll invite our organizing partners, CIIECO, to share a bit more about the kind of support that they're looking to provide challenge participants over the course of this challenge and beyond. Thank you.
Hi, Nicole. Thank you. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Good to have all of you here, and thank you for joining in. So I'm Sushmita. I work with CIIE, and we are a business accelerator incubator based out of Ahmedabad. We are hosted in Ahmedabad campus. As you see my background, a glimpse of our office. It has been a very exciting and tremendous experience working with the team at GFI, getting to know the startups, different. In fact, I did not know much of this whole sector until I came into this program, started working with everyone, and was part of understanding what the sector is providing, how it is evolving, and a number of startups that came through in the first phase and went through the next processes and succeeding processes to the last. So it has been an exciting journey, the kind of content that has come up, the kind of startups and ideas, right from very nascent understanding what kind of food alternative things can be brought into people who are already coming up with some food, some alternative protein products, but how to get it out in the market, and things have been pretty exciting. We at CII have been looking into different sectors, and before I talk more about and give it to the other team members that I have from CIE, I'll just quickly take you through CIE, a presentation. So just to give you a glimpses what we do as CIE and how you could also reach out to us if you need something, right? I'll just share my screen. Just hold on for a second and let me know. I think you can see the screen. No. Okay, something went wrong. Sorry. Nicole, can you see the screen?
No, I can't actually, Sushmita. It says you started screen sharing, but I can't see the screen yet. Oh, now I can. I can see your presentation.
Okay. Great. So, hi guys. This I said we are CIECO.
I think you just have to go in the slideshow mode.
Yeah, I have. Can you see that? Hello.
Yeah, we can see it. We can see it.
For me, it appears in the
Okay.
Okay, it's in the slide.
So
perfect.
you see
Thank you.
there is
It just came. Yeah, it did.
Okay. No worries. So the way you see CIECO, CO stands for continuum, because we are looking at entrepreneurs right from idea stage to growth stage, where we have different teams working at idea stage, at MVP pilot stage. There are companies which are working at business acceleration processes, and there is different funds and different teams which look into growth stage startups. So if you look, we have this shared mission of
I think that was a connection issue, but we'll just give Sushmita a minute to join back in. Sushmita, you're on mute.
Sorry, some internet connections going on. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So we have been working with the companies with very disruptive solutions, right? From healthcare to deep tech, to robotics, to aerospace. And even we have some companies in alternative proteins, which we'll 2 or 3 of them we will talk about it a little later. So we intend to become a market maker. We have tried to build ecosystems where there have been none. We have backed immensely potential entrepreneurs who are trying to solve tough problems, and we have tried to deliver quality, and hence being associated with this program has been a great privilege. So we have these couple of initiatives where we look into sectoral deep dives. We have regional teams working on specific problems. We have acceleration problems. Apart from that, we give grants, we give equity. In fact, we have invested in around 130 companies, and we have had a bunch of profitable exits from them. And so apart from that, we have research and insight. So where we do is we have a team which looks into different trends that are coming up. We are trying to build a better knowledge collateral, knowledge depository rather, for the ecosystem for the entrepreneurs and different domain-specific segments. This is a fairly timeline that we way back started in 1998 when we got conceptualized. We came into being as a Section 25 company, now a Section 8 company. We have had our first programs right in 2003, where there was almost a very nascent ecosystem, as you say. Over time, we have built it up. We have come up with different accelerator models, pioneered them. We have had a couple of largest B-plan competitions. Economic Times Power of Ideas is one of them. India Innovation Growth Program is another. We have set up 2 different VC AIFs or VC funds, which one is Infuse, which has been very focused on clean tech, and then there's Bharat Innovation Fund right now, which looks into deep tech startups typically. And we still are working with different startups in that fund. This is our leadership team and the organization being headed by Kunal Upadhyay. And we have not only this team, we have around approximately 100 people working together to pull together these different sections and bringing them together and going forward. We have a presence across the country. Mainly we are headquartered in Ahmedabad. We have an office in Jaipur, a significant number of team in Jaipur. We are starting off in Indore as well. So if you guys are in Indore, feel free to reach out to us. There are a few members here and there in Pune, in Delhi, definitely in Bangalore, because it being one of the hubs of entrepreneurship and most of the fund team sits out of there. So we have these people across. These are a few of the numbers where you see that we have accelerated over 1,000 people. And when we talk about acceleration, it typically is we have worked with them at least for 1 month to 3 months, depending on which programs they have been part of. We have funded over 140 startups, as you see. And when we talk about 25x leverage, it's like if we have invested 1 rupee, the company has gone out and raised 25 rupees against it. So leverage has been pretty good, and we are still working with it. You see a couple of big companies out there, Razorpay and Forus. So there is another company which has got acquired. So there are different companies which are working and growing and have got out of our ambit and scaled up further. So that has been one of the most interesting journeys. And we typically want to see the same thing going in smart and protein or alternative protein sector as well. It's a nascent sector right now. However, I think over time, we will be able to see much growth given how it's going. And I think for if you have any other questions, you can reach out to us, and we would love you to come and participate in this program. So, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Thank you so much, Rishmita, for that brief introduction to what CIECO does and is in what ways it is able to provide value to the program participants. As a lot of you might have thought, this is a little specific to track 2 because CIECO obviously caters more to entrepreneurs. Am I audible, Nicole? I'm just seeing frozen.
You are.
Okay. Great, thank you. So with this, I guess we'll move to the next leg of the presentation. And the good thing to note for all the attendees and potential participants is just like CIECO being an organizing partner, you've seen a lot of other partners on the challenge, right? And everybody brings specific value that they're adding to the program. And we are trying to take care of all the entrepreneurs, researchers, students who participate in the challenge, corporate professionals who participate in the challenge, and in the best ways we can in terms of post-challenge support, support during the challenge, and through your entire journey of building a smart protein venture. Or solving for a critical bottleneck, which is scientific in the smart protein domain. So quite exciting. With that, let's invite Chintan on board. So Chintan Antani was one of our judges in the demo day last year, and he was closely involved with the challenge last year as well. He has seen few startups come out of the challenge, and at the same time, he also interacts with a few startups which are smart protein startups and are being supported by CIECO. So hi Chintan, welcome to the webinar.
Hey, hi guys. Hi Shadul. Hi Nicole. Apologies, I won't be able to switch on the cam. I'm just out on the road, so I hope that's fine.
No worries. No, absolutely. I'd love to just hear your thoughts. And, you basically have, over half a decade of experience with investing in early stage startups, right? And you've been having a lot of significant interactions with smart protein entrepreneurs through the challenge last year, after the challenge with some of the teams that reached out to you, some of the entrepreneurs you're supporting outside of the challenge, some of the existing smart protein companies. And through all of this experience, right, at the innovation showcase at the Smart Protein Summit and the demo day for the ISPIC 2020. What are your thoughts on the current state of the Indian smart protein startup ecosystem?
Yes, I'm pretty interesting. You brought that up, Shadul. So the ecosystem, right? While if you compare it with your global benchmarks, lot of work to be done. But thanks to you guys and Team GFI, I think we've seen tremendous amount of noise around smart protein per se, right? Food tech, alternate food, all of it. And it was evident with last year's pitch day that I attended. Just the amount of sheer participation from investors, corporates, all of that, I think has been really, really exciting and encouraging, for even guys like us. We've been supporting entrepreneurs even long before and fairly sector agnostic, right? So having seen this sector from a close range, it was really encouraging to see the response. Ecosystem per se, is built of multiple stakeholders. Like you mentioned, people like GFI, investors, government for that matter as well. Policy framework, etc. I think we're coming along, but long way to go still. But it's never been a better time to actually build something in India, around the space. That much I can say. I think as the first 3 or 5 years of ecosystem building, I think that's the best time where you get the first mover, you get to make the first network connects, all of it. So I think that's my little 2 cents on how the ecosystem is placed right now.
Quite exciting views. Thank you, Chintan. My second question to you actually is about the specific smart protein startups that you've worked with. And, some of them are in the portfolio of CIECO as well. Can you shed some light on how that journey has been for them personally as entrepreneurs, as probably science and technology people involved in those startups? And what key learnings have you come across as an investor who's investing in building the smart protein ecosystem for India?
Sure. So the couple of startups that we've supported throughout and their journey. Like I'll just describe 2 key learnings. I think one was the recent uptake in terms of like I said, response for their respective products, for the science that they have developed, has been really encouraging. So it was sheer perseverance that got them through the first sort of, if I can draw this parallel to Silicon Valley, the valley of death, right? So for the first 3-4 years, you really just dig in your heels. You are drilling your product. You're trying to understand what the consumer wants, what the market is looking at this point, and then you just have to look like 5 or 7 years down the line. That's where you really navigate all the product market fit stages. And all the other stuff that goes with entrepreneurship, right? The usual thing. So I think that has been really, really exciting to see them grow. Like I said, initially there was absolutely lackluster responses, multiple product pivots, lot of R&D work, lot of talking to potential customers as to what kind of products are they looking at, where is the problem that they are facing, etc. And I think understanding the landscape was one of the key learnings that we had. That this is the key critical problem. What kind of different business models are going to be feasible in India? Can we strictly extrapolate Western trends? Both yes and no right now. All of that, I think, shaped them into better entrepreneurs, better students of the market, I would say. And I think all in all, I think nearly a half a decade journey with at least one of them, I can say that they are in a much better place. And, like I said, ecosystem development always helps. The market has matured, and I think things are looking up. Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Chintan. That's all for you from our end, but thank you so much for sharing those excellent insights. And what I gather from that is there are definitely a lot of challenges, sci-tech challenges specifically at that. And in a country like India, to build a food manufacturing business, it's always challenging. But finding the right talent, the right ecosystem, the right platform goes a long way. And at the same time, the local product market fit is quite important. Understanding the local consumer, understanding the local science and technology challenges, the value chains of proteins, etc., that you're trying to build into your business are quite important. So thank you so much for sharing those insights. We'll move on to Sonia for our next question. Hi, Sonia. Do you want to quickly say hi?
Hi, Shadul. Hi, Nicole. Hi, Devika. And warm welcome to all the participants. Yeah, ready for my questions. Please go ahead, Shadul.
Thank you. So Sonia, we know that you've been, tracking this sector quite closely for CIECO, right? And you've researched and you're kind of building an hypothesis on what kind of companies to invest in and basically how to support the best way the growth and catalyze the growth of smart protein startups. So what would you kind of share in terms of the learning opportunities and key white spaces that you've seen in this sector in India? And, what would you say are the key growth areas in the coming next 10 years for this sector and entrepreneurs and researchers in this sector?
Sure. I think that's a wonderful question. And specifically, just particularly for this sector, I think what we have observed that if we compare just US versus India, a lot of time has been spent, at least in US market, towards building plant-based, alternative protein products. However, in India, since we have, an entire ecosystem is at a nascent stage, so we are seeing parallel developments across all three modalities, which Nicole was just referring in the presentation. So that's a very interesting thing. What it leads as a natural outcome is that eventually we'll see hybrid products being launched and produced or coming out of India. And another interesting opportunity, which at least in our research has come up, is that, since there are indigenous crops, something that you already mentioned during the presentation, that India has been, has had rich biodiversity. So reverse innovation is also possible. So a lot of these ingredient players who are manufacturing or trying out different crops variants in India, they could see their ingredients being used by the global counterparts. So I think that's an excellent opportunity in the plant-based alternative protein sector in general.
Yeah, makes sense. So all a key point that Sonia makes is, the three key technology areas, right? Well, there would be plant-based meat, eggs, and dairy products. There would be, fermentation-derived proteins. There would be cultivated meat, eggs, and dairy. But there's a lot of synergy there, which is why in the first phase of the lab, we want all participants to understand all three key different production platforms for smart proteins, right? Only then you'll be able to find the best synergies. You'll be able to understand where your talents and your skills best lie in. And that's why the structure of the challenge is the way it is. And you rightly said, Sonia, I think there's a lot of opportunity for the next decade for founders who are building the startup now. So my second question for you is, you've directly worked with some startups in this sector, right? Plant-based ingredients, you've worked with fermentation-based startups as well. And you've basically interacted with a lot of demo day participants from last year as well. Young people, last year, the age limit was 28. This time, we don't have that. We have an age limit of 35 for track 1 and no age limit for track 2. So that means even an existing startup or a 60-year-old entrepreneur can participate in track 2 after going through the phase 1. So it's quite exciting. So we'll see a lot of exciting such companies coming up, which I hope you'll get to interact with soon after the journey is over. But what are some key pointers and for anyone who's interested in getting involved in the sector and don't know where to begin, I guess?
Right. So, I mean, Shadul, something which also GFI aims to do with, a challenge initiative like this is to bring people from multiple domains so that they can leverage the complementary skill sets that they have in place and form a team. So what has been our learning and observation, and I think Chintan did touch upon that point as well, is that a lot of players who originally start with an idea, they might just focus on the research bit. However, we want to commercialize that idea as well. So understanding that where are the commercial bottlenecks, how do you scale, how do you, understand that a business model needs to be pivoted, perfected eventually in your journeys. I think that has been the major takeaway for us whenever we have interacted with the startups or even the teams of the last year's challenge program as well. And we naturally, I mean, coming from a business incubation center, we naturally try to impart that knowledge that these are the few underlying business/marketing related, thought processes that you need to inculcate from actually an early stage, so that you don't miss out on that timeline that is required to be followed when commercializing an idea. So I think, yeah, that has been my 2 cents on the I think pointers that you mentioned.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We see this quite often, right? Like founders with a non-SciTech background are looking for talent as part of to make core members of their team. Last year, so many startups found scientists, food technologists, agriculture engineers, mechanical, chemical engineers from the challenge as part of their startup teams, early founder teams. And that's the thing, somebody was asking earlier, are we going to have a community for everyone so that people can interact with? We have a dedicated Slack community, which is created for all challenge participants. So last year, all 1,000 people were interacting with each other, learning from each other's experiences. People with a background in business or law were learning things about agronomy and food science, and vice versa. People were looking at taking products to market who were scientists. And there's always this complementary approach to the entire challenge journey. So point well taken, Sonia. I think that's a great observation. And I think we'll definitely look to doing that by having more interactive sessions for track 1 and track 2 participants starting phase 2, so that they can learn from each other's experiences, at the same time add value to their own individual proposals as well. With that, thank you so much, Sonia. We'll actually go on to Sushmita for our last question of the panel before we open it up for the audience for the Q&A. And audience, you can start submitting your Q&A through the Q&A button, as I've said a couple of times in the chat section. Feel free to submit your questions and we'll get to them in the last 20 minutes. Hi, Sushmita. Hi again.
Hi.
So you were part of ISPIC 2020, right? And you actually personally conducted a couple of inspiration webinar series mentorship sessions as well in phase 3. And so can you tell us a little bit about your experience of interacting with these, students, startups? Some of them were, food tech students, etc. So they were coming from a lot of different backgrounds. So how was your overall experience in this?
Yeah, so one, it was really good. Couple of points on that is one, since I was interacting in the phase 3, these people had already come through a bunch of sessions series. They were already exchanging notes. Teams had got formed by then. So there was a lot of assimilation of thoughts that they could put across, and that helped because they were trying to create a paper and a project out of it. So, but they were like, it was like different backgrounds and everyone was excited. There were different combinations, people from different backgrounds. There were an engineer or someone who has worked in the industry for a couple of years, and they were like very young students as well. So it was very interesting to see that combination of teams as well. And the ideas they came up with, as we went through the different sessions, what I figured is they were also keen to understand the different aspects of entrepreneurship, not only the sector or how to build a product or take it forward. So the team starting to think at that level, right? With a product they are still to come up with, and in a sector that it's still developing. It's actually encouraging to see that. So I hope to see more of those kind of teams this year also, and it will be interesting what kind of ideas come up. I'm sure a lot of them are actually working to the next level as well.
Absolutely. And this year, because we have separate tracks, last year there was no track, right? So that's why everybody was kind of working on a similar proposal. But this time, people with a SciTech kind of interest can choose to solve SciTech problem statements in track 1, and people who want to start a venture at the end of the challenge will participate in track 2, existing startups, veteran entrepreneurs, young students. It's a 18-year-old entrepreneur to a 60-year-old entrepreneur. We are hoping that a bunch of variety of participants with diverse skill sets and backgrounds and experiences do sign up, and then hopefully a lot of them find complementary skill sets as well in their teammates. So quite exciting. Thank you so much, Sushmita, for sharing your thoughts. With this, we'll open it up for the Q&A bit, and you can start submitting some of your questions from the Q&A button. I'm going to take a few that I have in front of me, right? So I think there are a couple of questions around how we are going to make the teams, and Nicole and Devika have been answering some of the questions as well, so you can check the answer tab and you can see a lot of the questions answered already, but just to gauge some common questions that were coming till now, right, and answering them largely. So basically people sign up. It does not matter if you're a scientist, student, entrepreneur, existing startup, lawyer, chartered accountant, it does not matter. As long as you want to learn about the challenge, you sign up in phase 1, you go through this 40-hour of journey, you get 60% or more to qualify phase 1, and there's detailed evaluation criteria available on our website for each of the phases. Once that is done, you have the fundamental knowledge, right? Whether you're a student, you were looking for business resources, you had backgrounds only in science and technology, you now understand the sector and everything from an innovation, policy, science, business perspective, entrepreneurship perspective. And these are all light resources, right? Nothing too complicated, nothing too technical. So this is the first part of your journey, phase 1, right? It's your induction into the sector. And what happens is you get certified for this. So though we say it's a 5-month journey, but if you're not sure, if you're not sure that you're probably going to start a company or you're going to solve specific problems, this is a great way of, just testing the waters, getting a certificate, learning everything in a month's time in a structured path, and then ultimately deciding whether to continue or not. And like I said, last time the almost 600, 700 people out of the 1100 participants did continue after. Some of them couldn't qualify because they did not get 60%. So take it seriously. And everybody who you want to pair up with, ask them to sign up from the phase 1. No new entries will be accepted after phase 1, right? Only people who go through that journey and get 60% marks will move to phase 2, as Nicole was earlier telling. So when you move to phase 2, you're put in a matchmaking week. Now, throughout the first month, you were on the Slack community, you were talking to each other. Maybe you already came into the challenge. For example, if you have a roommate or if you have a co-founder, right, and you registered with them, if you have a team of 3 key members of your startup, all of them will register in phase 1. All of them will go through the phase 1 and will qualify the phase 1. And then you choose a team, right? And everybody has a choice. We have some recommendations, obviously, because, track 1 is more SciTech specific, track 2 is more venture creation specific. And, we'll have a specific set of problem statements, RFPs that you'll kind of solve for in track 1. And then there are white space opportunity areas that we've identified through all our expertise over the past 3-4 years globally in our country, understanding the challenges, the opportunities. We have some high growth opportunity areas for entrepreneurs, and they would pretty much, account for all startups in the plant-based meat, eggs and dairy, fermentation and cultivated meat, eggs and dairy space. And then you'll basically try to build a proposal on that white space area in track 2. But on each of those tracks, we'll give you some recommendations that, okay, if you're choosing a specific problem statement in track 1, what kind of partners you might look for, right? And we'll make that available while you're in phase 1. All of the participants who sign up, we'll give you some recommendations based on the total number of signups we have on what is the exact number of size. So minimum is going to be 3, maximum it can be 4 in exceptional cases. We'll see how the distribution works out, and we'll give you exact matchmaking guidelines and a handbook for matchmaking, right? And then you'll be put on a platform to basically form these teams on a first come, first serve basis. So there's a nice mechanism in place for you to choose teammates, and then you form those teams. Now you form those teams, you begin your journey for phase 2. And then people who get selected in phase 2 based on the evaluation criteria on our website move on to phase 3. People who get selected in phase 3 move on to phase 4, and then they basically, pitch their idea, whether it's for track 1, whether it's a scientific proposal or it's a business proposal with an element of scientific proposal in track 2, because we're building a venture which is quite important in science and technology. You all showcase your ideas in a demo day to a huge audience of all our key partners, investors, experts, thought leaders, and then you form those connects and you get something tangible out of value. There's a huge prize pool, obviously, up to 20 lakhs, and we are going to select up to 20 winners, 10 in track 1 and 10 in track 2. This is a huge leap from last year, where we did only 4 lakh rupees in prize money and only 5 teams were selected in the demo day as winners. So this is a huge opportunity, and everybody's welcome to participate. You just have to account for, if you're a 60-year-old and you want to participate in track 1, you cannot, because the age limit for track 1 is 35, right? And we feel a lot of scientists, industry scientists, masters, PhD, bachelor students who are relevant for that track are under the age of 35 in India. And for track 2, there's no age limit. So, if you're a lawyer, if you're just a general person who wants to learn about the sector, then track 2 is a good fit for you, right? Because it's less about, there's obviously a huge element of science and technology, and you'll have to learn those things, because without that, you cannot do anything in this sector. But basically, there'll be a huge element of marketing, business, etc. as well. And you can see the evaluation criteria for both tracks across the phases to understand this a little better. I saw a lot of other questions as well about the journey, about the exact timelines. I'll recommend you to just click on the apply now button, land on the landing page. There's a detailed timeline given on that page. There's an application guide, which is already shared with you in the chat box, which is also available on our website if you take a look at the homepage. And you can look at exactly when the challenge would start, what are the exact timelines for each of the phases, what are the result dates in between. And most of our posters, most of our social media handles are putting up a lot of this content, including a lot of our social media handles of our partners. So I encourage you all to take a look. We are going to stop here and take a quick poll before we do more questions. So Devika, do you want to quickly run the poll so that we can get some responses from the audience? So you will see a poll in front of you, and you can start answering those questions now. And we have 60 seconds for this. Once you've done answering all of these questions, you'll be able to see what everybody else has responded. These are basic questions just to gauge your interest, and also just to see what kind of areas you're interested in terms of end product innovation, etc. So please fill them in. We're just waiting for 30 more seconds till you fill that in, and then the results will be kind of visible to all of you. So while the polling is happening, let me also tell you, right, this webinar is about everything you need to know about ISPIC 2020, which is why we didn't spend a lot of time talking about the 3 technology areas, what the smart protein sector is, the entire value chain. And a lot of you who do not know these things might be a little bit confused, right? So please make sure that you join us on our next webinar on the 7th of September, same time, 6 p.m. IST. And, you would be able to find a lot of the answers for those questions. Okay, great. We have a lot of responses here. So I'm going to stop the poll. I think it's stopped, and you can see the answers. As you can see, we have a very good mix across categories. More than 50% people want to innovate in plant-based. A lot of them want to innovate in fermentation and cultivated. I think across meat, seafood, dairy, eggs, and ingredient and technology solutions in these 3 technology areas, there's a very good distribution across all of that. So, all of these people are the kind of people who you will form teams with, right? You don't know. Maybe you have a partner to begin with, right? Maybe you're an existing startup, or maybe you're 2 dorm room food technologists who want to sign up for this challenge together, or maybe you're a group of 3 friends who want to sign up. All of you sign up, all of you qualify, you form a team. That's great. But for majority of the participants, right, they don't know who to form a team with. And I think this whole first month's journey will really enable you for the matchmaking week, right? And then you'll be able to choose people with the right set of interests, same as you, through our matchmaking, process. And then you'll be able to form teams which are going to probably last not just during the duration of the challenge, but probably after that as well. So it's a quite important step, and more on that later on as participants qualify phase 1 and during phase 1. But yeah, I think we can stop sharing the poll now. Quite exciting. Do we have another poll to run? Okay, great. So I guess before we begin the next set of questions, let me launch this quick last question about how much clarity do you have now? I mean, I'm sure some of you might be taking a look at the website on the site. Some of you might be, going through some of our application guides. So, what level of questions are currently pending? And if you have, because I see 20% people saying they have still some queries left, submit it now through the Q&A button. Take a look at all the questions that have been already answered by Nicole and Devika, so that you can get an answer to your query as well. If there's something new which we haven't covered till now, please feel free to submit a fresh question through the Q&A chat, through the Q&A button. All right. So another 10 seconds for you to answer this poll. This is great to see that 75% of the people are saying, yes, I'm all set. Which is quite exciting. It means that our session was quite useful for you to understand the different tracks, the technology areas, how the matchmaking works, how the timelines work, how the rewards work. And trust me, this kind of an opportunity is very difficult to find in our country. And what we have tried to really do over the past few months is put together a lot of key partners, right? Investors, ecosystem players, accelerators, incubators, partners like CIECO, bio incubators. NIFTIM is one of the partners which you'll soon see on the website. So NIFTIM, IFPD are National Institutes of Importance from food technology. A lot of entrepreneurs, the kind of infrastructure they have for food innovation, very few universities have. We have IIT Madras Bio Incubator, IIT Bombay Bio Incubator. We have international investment funds as partners. And all of this is obviously possible because of the wonderful support of all the donors of GFI India. We are a non-profit, and all our key sponsors and title sponsor for ISPIC 2021. So the title sponsor is CGCL, Capri Global, and the key sponsors are IIM Foundation and NICE. So please do take a look at their websites as well from our website, and you'll find more about the sponsors, all the partners, the mentors from last year are on our website now. The win-win page is live. There are timelines, there are details, all the things that you really need to know. And once you've done that, click on apply now. Make sure you fill up the registration form and go through the landing page, which is the Mercer Metal platform, right? The whole thing is hosted on Mercer Metal, which is again an excellent platform where you're able to see, how others are doing during the challenge, what their scores are. So there's a competitive spirit, there's transparency, there's openness, and the evaluation criteria is completely objective. So all of these things make this challenge quite unique experience, and it's free to sign up, right? So there's no cost associated with it. So we hope that a lot of you do sign up, and we have a queries form, because hundreds and thousands of people will perhaps write to us over the course of these few months. So we have a queries form on the website, and Devika has put that in the chat box as well. If you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to submit it from them. Okay, in the interest of time, we have 10 more minutes left. This webinar goes on till 7:30. So let me check some of the questions that have come in. Correct. So for track one, there's no expectation of a prototype, right? Neither the evaluation criteria kind of reflects that to majority of extent, because we understand it's a virtual, it's kind of a virtual challenge, right? It's entirely virtual in the sense that we want to make sure if the third wave comes, or people are still dealing with the second wave of the pandemic. A lot of universities, institutions, product development centers are closed down, which is why track one is a theoretical track. Maybe Nicole, do you want to add a little bit to some of these questions as well?
Yeah, so I've been responding to all your questions in the chat, so you can have a look. But essentially, track one is more catered towards ideation. So that means submitting a theoretical solution to one of the 15 problem statements that we provide. And track two is catered towards entrepreneurship. So this is more appropriate for existing startups or entrepreneurs. And the reason why we've designed it this way is because we are unable to provide you with infrastructure for you to prototype. So as Shardul mentioned, because of our current situation and uncertainty about what we can expect over the next coming months, anyone who's applying to track two, we ask them to please use your own resources, access to your own university ecosystems to support you in prototyping. Following the end of the challenge, our bio-incubator partners who are partners to us on the challenge will be able to provide startups that are successful at the end of the pitch day, a spot within their incubation facilities for a subsidized cost. So the prize money that you win at the end of the challenge can be used towards this this subsidized rent that is offered by our bio-incubator partners. But it's important to note that the incubator partners we have on board are some of the leading bio-incubators in the country. So it will really give you a leg up in terms of applying to be part of these cohorts, because that in itself is a super competitive process. But by being part of the ISPIC challenge, you will be given a preferential slot within their incubators.
Thank you, Nicole. And for, plant-based entrepreneurs, which are relatively much mature, you probably people, existing startups that are already working, we'll select the winners separately. Existing startups will have separate winners, and people who are new to the startup world will be a separate category when we choose the winners. Prototyping for plant-based meat, eggs, and dairy has evaluation criteria in track 2. It has some weightage, and, we basically rely on you to have some sort of a MVP or some validation of your idea once you reach phase 3 and phase 4. And again, a lot of these specific details, a lot of individual mentorship will happen for the top teams as they progress through the challenge, right? So it's a 5-page proposal submission in phase 2, which gives us a good idea. Okay, is this team, what they're working on, a good idea, right? And then you all move on to, phase 3. You basically work on your proposal, and then you essentially are building on the ideas that you developed in phase 2 and kind of really making a nice 15-17 page long, and you'll be provided all the guidelines of what the format looks like for submission of that proposal, etc., etc. I think a few people have been asking about the challenge statements, right? So those won't be available right now. Those will be available for all the participants after phase 1. And that's done for a reason, right? We want you to basically go through all the resources in lab 1 neutrally, understanding that, earlier our panelists were saying that a lot of synergies exist between the 3 technology areas, right? And before you consume all of that knowledge, we don't want to barrage you with a lot of specific problem statements. They'll be made available to everyone at the same time after phase 1 or towards the end of phase 1, so that you can make a wise decision before forming teams and making sure what track you're choosing, right? Before, giving your final selection and then embarking on your journey phase 2 onwards. And obviously you won't be able to change tracks. You won't be able to change your areas or, basic problem statement areas in track 2 or RFP areas in track 1 after you begin the journey. So that decision would be quite crucial. So all the participants who've already registered or have decided to register, and I see a lot of you still on this call after an hour and a half. So I'm sure a lot of you who stayed back are quite interested. So make sure that you're thinking about all of these things through phase 1, right? Who do you want to partner up with? What kind of skills you're looking to, complement with your own skill set? What kind of track you want to focus on? And maybe you have a tentative idea, which is why we're capturing your tentative interest, right? It's a non-binding interest in the registration form. But that is not binding right now, but it will be binding starting phase 2. So that's another great thing to keep in mind.
So I just want to answer one of the questions that came up about the difference between phase 2 and phase 3. So the idea in phase 2, as Shardul mentioned, you'll be moving in from an individual phase of the challenge, which is phase 1, into the team stage of the challenge. So the idea in phase 2 is to really pick which track you're looking to pursue during the challenge, as well as the technology area. You'll be submitting, at the end of phase 2, you'll be asked to submit a 5-page proposal describing very briefly the solution you look to put forward and you look to pursue across the challenge. Once you qualify for phase 3, you'll be asked to submit a more detailed 20 to 25-page proposal, going into more detail and more depth about your solution. Within the chat box, I will paste the evaluation criteria that you'll find on our details page, and this will give you a better understanding of what are some of the requirements across phase 2 and phase 3.
Perfect. I see a lot of other questions as well. I'm an industry consultant. How do I participate? I'm a XYZ. Like I said, everybody can participate in phase one, right? Literally no barriers. As long as you kind of satisfy the eligibility criteria, you are an Indian citizen, or at least have a lot of context, working and understanding the Indian challenges and opportunities and bottlenecks, you're eligible to participate in phase one, right? The only thing you need to keep in mind is the specific evaluation criteria for track one and track two. It won't be wasted, because if you're above 35, you can still always participate in track two after phase one. But that's what we have tried to make it open for everybody from all backgrounds. Obviously, there are specific skill sets that we are targeting here as well, which are quite important for the sector. But that does not stop you from learning if you do not come from a specific background of academic discipline, etc., right? And if you're an industry consultant, if you already have few years of experience, that's great. So many younger entrepreneurs need people with technical expertise in manufacturing, in scale up, in flavors. There are just so many white space opportunity areas, which you'll see in the next webinar as well, right? We'll talk about the entire value chain, all three technology areas, and you'll kind of understand what the problem statements and the RFPs for track two and track one respectively will kind of look like, right? So the white space opportunity area arises from a critical understanding of the value chain that exists for these three key technology areas, and we'll cover that at length. So stay tuned for that. Please join us on 7th September as well. Okay, let me check a few more questions. Yeah, no, everything's free. So the 40 hours worth of content, phase two mentorship, phase three, everything throughout the challenge is possible. Like I said, this is a non-profit initiative. So, everything's available for free. We have an open access philosophy with every resource that we create in general. And you can take a look at our websites to understand more, gfi.org.in. What else? There are a few more questions. So a lot of them are already answered by Nicole with a lot of context, but let me just get some overall themes arising out of it. In terms of expectations, check out our details page. I'm just going to quickly take you all through our website so that you know what's coming from where. Just give me a second. Great. So this is the challenge website, right, guys? And everything's given here. All the details about the challenge, why there is a need for the sector, the existing challenges with the food system, what we are really trying to do here, you to apply, what to expect in terms of the kind of things you're going to get, by participating in the challenge, the eligibility criteria. There's an application guide, which I earlier shared. Once you open this application guide, you'll be able to see a lot of specific instructions as well before you click on apply now. So please do that. You're seeing some sponsors here, everything on track two, on what basis we are evaluating you, what the journey is going to look like, etc., You can click on, track website, and basically you can also go through the win-win page, which will help you kind of understand your journey and the kind of things. This is what exactly Nicole covered in a presentation earlier. So, just to kind of revisit that, if you want to go ahead and take a look, you can take a look at the solutions wall from last time. You'll see some mentors from last time. The current list of mentors is being finalized and will be updated in a month's time on our website as well. You can see the partners and sponsors page, and multiple FAQs as we are collecting them from you are being updated here, and you'll see some more FAQs coming in for track one and track two here as well. If you have any questions, use this query resolution form, and definitely make sure you follow all of these handles, because all of the updates will go out from our social media handles throughout the challenge, and obviously before the registration deadline, which is the 14th of September. So just 12 days from now. Hundreds of people all over India have already signed up. Like I said, last year, more than 1,000 people signed up for the challenge. So we're quite excited to, get more number of people sign up for the challenge this year as well. And yeah, we are super excited to having you with us on this journey. And we hope, like I was telling earlier, right, if all of you spread this with 5 or 10 people in your network, who might be people who care about these areas, whether it's land use, water use, sustainability, animal welfare, food technology, agriculture technology, biotechnology, chemicals, the future of humanity, future of public health. There are just so many cause areas associated with the sector to do immense positive good and have a great positive impact on the society, not just by participating in the challenge. So the mentorship, the tangible rewards like the cash prizes, those are all exceptional awards for sure. For anything in this sector, this is the biggest of its kind. But at the same time, the kind of satisfaction you personally get from choosing a career where you can contribute to making the world a better place is also quite overlooked at times. So I encourage you all to take a look at some of these things and then do sign up for the challenge and spread the word. I think that's about it, right, Nicole? Do we have any other? Yeah, you can. So somebody's asking, can we take a look at what's happening last year? So make sure, right? Obviously, there are specific rules for plagiarism. While you submit the registration form, you have a Smart Protein Challenge honor code oath that you kind of subscribe to, and will ensure that anything that's repeated or is kind of plagiarized from last year's challenge would be kind of strictly kind of dealt with. But feel free to take a look at our solutions wall and kind of see some inspiration from other ideas that people have posted in an external facing view with participants of the world. So feel free to take a look at that on our website as well. Okay, with that, I'm going to stop the recording for the session.
There's one last question, Shardul, in terms of we've been getting a number of questions about when or where you can see some of these challenge statements as well as the themes. I just want to emphasize that for track 1, which is the innovation track, we will be providing you with 15 problem statements based on our own experience in the sector, as well as our interactions with industry in the sector. So these problem statements can be anything from fat encapsulation for plant-based meats to setting up a cell bank for the cultivated meat sector. So cell line bank for the cultivated meat sector. So based on some of the most pressing challenges within the sector, we've designed 15 problem statements for track 1. And for track 2, because this is an entrepreneurship track, we have made it a bit broader. So we are focusing more on value chain areas. So for plant-based, the focus is on meat, eggs, dairy, seafood, and ingredients. For fermentation, it'll be focused across the value chain. And for cultivated as well, again, it's focused across the value chain to include cell culture media or cell lines. But that's not to say that you won't be able to provide, to present a startup that can produce an end product. This is just for you to get an idea of where some of these white space opportunities lie. During our next webinar on the 7th of September, which is next Tuesday, we will be providing you an overview of the sector itself. So really going into the technological side of what the plant-based, fermentation-derived and cultivated meat sector really is. And we'll also be providing you an overview of what some of these challenge statements might look like. But for participants that move from phase 1 to phase 2, before you are asked to pick between track 1 or track 2, or before you are asked to pick between plant-based or fermentation or cultivated, we will have in-depth webinars with you to showcase these problem statements, and you'll have access to these problem statements well in advance of you picking where exactly you want to pursue your solution. I hope that clears things up.
Yeah, so for track 1, you'll have to choose one of the 15, right? There'll be roughly 5-6 for plant-based, 4-5 for fermentation, 4-5 for cultivated, and you'll basically choose each one of them. For track 2, like I said, like Nicole said, these are broader kind of areas of innovation, white space opportunities across the value chain. And what is value chain, we'll understand in the next webinar in detail, like she said. So those are a couple of questions. So you can basically either work on an existing startup idea, which is fitting in one of those areas, or you can think of something new in track 2 in one of those areas and submit it accordingly. Perfect. So I think that is it. I will stop the recording for the session, but we'll